Rain slithered down the window pane, running over the golden words painted on the gallery door, like they, too, longed to escape the pretension inside. My hair dripped cold drops down my neck, bleeding into the collar of my borrowed shirt as I clutched the cake box close, so close I could feel the condensation slip beneath my fingers. I had spent 4 days and as many nights on this cake, folding orange blossom into sponge, threading guava jellies between layers. Sculpting sugar paste orchids, burning my fingertips on caramel glass petals. I stood just inside the entrance, translucent purse hooks and glinting shoes everywhere, and watched. My brother Celso, thin as a scarecrow and louder than New Year's fireworks, leaned across the makeshift bar in the corner, already on his second drink. A smattering of our extended family cluttered the white gallery sofas, Tia Magali with her enormous red handbag, Cousin Luisa hunched around her phone, everyone dressed sharp and looking elsewhere. I had invited nearly all of them. Only my mother met my eyes, quickly, nervously, before glancing away. "Você de novo?" the manager barked, startling me, his cheeks flushed pink as he glanced down at the cake box in my arms. "We said no vendors tonight." I opened my mouth. The words wouldn't come. My tongue felt glued down by exhaustion and shame. I wasn't a vendor. I was an artist, an aspiring one at least. But his words echoed what half my neighborhood fought. People like us weren't chefs. We weren't artists. We worked in bakeries to pay bills, and when we got fancy ideas, designing gallery cakes, sculpting sugar butterflies, hoping for commissions, we were asking to be mocked. "I'm not a vendor. My voice scraped out. "My pieces are in the show." He frowned at my box. "We asked for installations, not food." Behind me, Celso snorted. "Relaxa, Gabriela. Who's going to commission a cake for 1,500 reais? The world isn't made of chocolate." Laughter curled around me, half polite, half pitying. Even Luisa cracked a smile behind her phone. I felt heat rise in my cheeks as if I could melt. The box in my hand suddenly looked childish next to the angular metal and glass on the stands. "It's not just a cake," I tried. "It's sugar work." The manager shook his head. "You can stay, but the cake goes home." I had nowhere else to go. I had poured everything into this cake. Money, time, hope, all tangled up with my own stubborn longing. Now even my breath tasted of guava and sugar, sickly sweet and false. I set the box down just inside the door. "Fine," I said, dignity cracking as I walked away. The patter of rain against the glass grew louder as the gallery filled with laughter and music. I felt cold to my bones, but anger pushed me forward, angry at myself for thinking I could ever belong, angry at my family for never truly backing me, angry at Rio itself for showing so many doors and slamming each one in my face. I hadn't slept that night. I retreated to my cramped apartment in Lapa and pulled off my damp shirt. My mother called at midnight. "Gabriela querida, you know how people are. Don't let them get under your skin. You're so talented." She meant well, but her voice always had the same slippery note of regret when she said it, as if she wished I had been born wanting less. I said goodnight and stared at the ceiling, the silhouette of sugar orchids imprinted on my retinas. In the days that followed, my brother made jokes about culinary art galleries at every family gathering. Our older cousin Eduardo laughed louder than anyone. "What do you need, Gabriela?" he had said once, raising his glass. "A brush or a whisk?" They never let go of the story. At the bakery where I worked, my coworkers only half listened to my ideas for new pastries, focusing instead on gossip or football scores. No one wanted guava and cheese millefeuille or orange flower cheesecake with rosewater syrup, no matter how many times I brought samples. "Stick with the classics," my boss told me with a tired smile. I started avoiding birthdays and family churrascos. At the market, neighbors started asking if I had moved away, and I never corrected them. It hurt too much. but the freshly oiled marble of my kitchen stayed warm beneath my hands, and each night I returned to the quiet ritual of baking egg, sugar, patience, motion. The city could sneer. My dough always rose, smooth and gold under my palms. Years blurred, stitched together by routine and longing. Life became about scraping together money for rent, saving for a stand mixer, perfecting chiffon cake under summer heat, sacrificing every idle hour for freelance gigs. Sometimes, at night, the sky above Rio spilled silver over the sleeping city, and I'd let myself dream. But rejection, that rain-soaked night, had burned deep inside. Along the way, anger kept me moving where hope would have failed. I was determined to outlast them all, even if it meant no one remembered. Then, one sticky summer morning, my phone buzzed with a message that changed everything. "Hello, Gabriella. Saw your brigadeiro flowers on Instagram. Would you be interested in collaborating with Patisserie du Corcovado?" I stared at my phone in shock. The patisserie was new, but already infamous among socialites and food bloggers for importing French trends and giving them a Brazilian twist. Their chef, Clémence Durand, had a reputation for both genius and cruelty. I'd never met her, but her review in the O Globo had sent pastry trends spinning for months. Part of me wanted to ignore the message, afraid of more rejection, but another part, the guttering flame left over from that gallery night, forced me to reply. I typed with trembling hands. "I'd love to." A week later, I stood in the kitchen of the patisserie, white tiles gleaming, the smell of passion fruit and caramel swirling through the air. My heart pounded as Clémence, sharp-eyed and small, tasted my guava lime tart. She chewed slowly, then set her fork down. "Esto está surprising, Brazilian and delicate." I released a breath I didn't know I was holding. "I need a new dessert for the mayor's birthday party, something classic but new. Can you do it?" I nodded. "Yes." She smiled, tight and sudden. "You have 3 days." That challenge almost broke me. I called in sick at the bakery and worked until dawn, blending Brazilian flavors with traditional French techniques. Jackfruit pâte frite, cachaça mousse, coconut dacquois, candied hibiscus. All the flavors Rio tucked into alleyways and corner bars, now dressed up in ruined elegance. Clémence's approval gave me a high I'd never known. After the party, orders began to trickle in. Weddings, galas, magazine shoots. Food bloggers started requesting interviews. Soon, I'd left the bakery job behind, opening a tiny studio in Santa Teresa, where tourists and locals alike started queuing for my cardamom pão de mel and salted doce de leite eclairs. Even my family changed, or pretended to. Tia Magali texting friends about her famous pastry chef niece, Louisa asking for custom cakes for Insta. Success wrapped me in a fragile serenity, but beneath it buzzed a steady hum of anger, not gone, but muted, fueling me to greater heights. I couldn't forgive, not yet. When my shop was featured in Veja Rio, the interview came with photographs, me at my marble workbench, hands dusted in flour, one eyebrow raised. I looked older, but not tired, a woman standing defiantly in the swirl of her own making. Celso read the article aloud at a family lunch, voice thick with awe, but part of me didn't believe their pride. My mother hugged me, teary-eyed. "It was always your dream, Fia." I bit back a reply. No, it was always my fight, and said nothing. Years passed. Seasons changed, each new experiment and challenge sharpening my resolve. I found myself at peace inside the steady rhythm of my kitchen. Eggshells cracking, sugar hissing in the pan, the slow rise of dough, tiny bubbles forming like hope rediscovered. The city outside still hustled, the hills of Rio, green and gold in the morning light. Sometimes I glimpsed my reflection in the window, and thought of that first rain-soaked night, the girl with one cake and no audience. That anger hadn't left me, but serenity had grown up around it, a calm earned by not backing down. The call came one Monday after Carnival. "They want you for the national baking competition on Globo," my assistant grinned, brandishing her phone. "Finale's in Rio live. You'll represent the city." For a second, old doubts returned, acid and raw. My family watched each episode. So did the whole neighborhood, crowding bar TVs and living room sofas, cheering when I pulled ahead. But the nerves inside me stayed raw, exposed. For the finale, the producers demanded a pastry masterpiece, a reflection of yourself and your city. I knew instantly what I'd make. I spent the night before staring at the city from atop Santa Teresa, the lights below flickering like memory, each one someone who had doubted, dismissed, or ignored me. I listened to the distant samba, smelled fried pastéis wafting up from the street below, and let everything I felt, anger, serenity, pride, and pain, boil inside me until only clarity remained. The final challenge was broadcast live from the Museum of Modern Art, iron and glass, rain once again streaking the vast windows. I brought my ingredients in through the rain, remembering the weight of that very first cake box. My hands shook, but I worked with purpose. No hesitation. Every movement like choreography I'd rehearsed 1,000 times. Layers of cassava almond sponge flavored with orange blossom, spread with house-made guava jelly, stacked with passion fruit lime curd, covered in paper-thin caramel glass. Each petal, each swirl, a nod to Brazil's flora and the grit of its people. Sugar orchids, bright as carnival sequins, bloomed along the base. When the time came to present, I glanced out. My family sat in the audience, Celso, Tia Mangali, even cousin Eduardo, leaning forward, faces tense. Scattered through the rows were others from my old neighborhood, familiar faces I hadn't seen since the bakery days. I lifted the cake onto the pedestal, a replica of the original, but grander, every detail perfected. I stepped back, breathing in the mix of sugar, tropical fruit, and rain-damp night. The judges leaned in for their bite. Seconds passed, hanging heavy as thunder. The head judge, stern, respected, infamous for never smiling, lifted her fork, tasted, and something almost like a grin split her lips. "You set the bar, not just for Rio, for all of us." Beneath the stage lights, applause broke out, not polite, not pitiful, but wild, shattering. I saw Celso slap his own knee, mouth open in shock, Magali wiping her eyes, Eduardo's smirk replaced by slack-jawed awe. On the giant screens, cameras zoomed in on the cake, sugar flowers gleaming. Layers as precise and light as clouds. All those who had laughed, who had shamed me, were now forced to see the truth so clearly they could taste it. Out in the lobby after, they flooded around me. Strangers first, then old neighbors, and eventually my family. "We always knew you could do it, Gabriella," Celso said, voice shaking. "What kind of, I can't believe." Louisa hugged me without a selfie. I felt a strange